Hey everyone, it's Jakov, and I'm here today with a video ranking all of the Pike Infantry units in Total War the Dawnless Days. Before we get started, let's break down what the Dawnless Days is, that being a mod for the game Total War Attila, mod linked in the description of course, completely overhauling the game and basing it off of the world of Lord of the Rings. In previous videos I looked at and compared the sword infantry units in the mod as well as spear infantry, ranking them in terms of how useful they are, using their statistics, availabilities and abilities to determine their rankings. In this video, we'll be doing the same thing, but instead with Pike Infantry. Units that are distinguished by their choice of weapon. Incredibly long pikes that are perfect for destroying cavalry and infantry or the pikemen slaying formations. The troops generally dropping shields in order to use their weapons, being somewhat of a glass cannon when it comes to combat. At the end of the video, the charts that I use to compare their qualities will be shown. Before I get into the rankings, first I'd like you to like and subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and after that I want to make it clear that these rankings are purely my opinion and as such are subjective, so if my rankings don't match yours, don't feel bad. That said, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the units in the comments. All up, the mod, as of version 0.6.0, currently has 6 Pike Infantry units spread across its various factions, although that may be subject to change in the future, as are these rankings. That said, let's start the rankings. Coming in dead last, we have the Vinland Watchmen of Dale. These silver tier 2 medium pike infantry are the only pikemen that Dale can field, which is quite bad for the faction's flexibility on the battlefield, given that the unit has a limit of 3 per army, meaning that amassed pike blocks are impossible. The unit is at best used as a supplementary force to enhance your armies, useful as the centre of your front line while being flanked by spearmen so as to preserve the unit's cohesion. Overall, a relatively mediocre unit that doesn't work that well in combination with its faction's other forces, given that Dale is a ranged faction primarily and not really a spear or a pike faction. Making it into the top 5, which isn't that much of an achievement in this video in particular, are the Fountain Guards, an elite unit of gold tier 4 heavy pike infantry. These troops are a potential general for Gondor, actually being the cheapest general available to the faction. Sadly, while you'd assume that makes the unit that much more valuable, in truth it doesn't, given that it means that the unit, which already has a limit of 3 per army, is now limited to 2 in the front lines unless you want to risk a general. This is compounded by the fact that while the unit is a lot hardier than the lesser pike units in this list, it is still vulnerable to archers and other ranged units which will have a field day regardless of whether or not this unit is deployed as a general in the front lines or kept in reserve. The unit's required slowness in formation, making it massively vulnerable to cavalry too if hit in the flanks or rear. Overall, while it is a unit that does boost the strength of Gondor, it's not really a unit that's useful or necessary at the end of the day, which can't be said for the units beating it out. In 4th position we find the Guards of Immladris, who as the name suggests are found in the Immladris roster. A silver tier 3 medium pike infantry unit, these troops are a potential general for Immladris as well as their cheapest option. However, this isn't the reason for their position. In the current state of the mod, Immladris is very much an empty faction, barely having any units available, with what it does have being top of the line elite elven troops. For such a small roster, any unit at all is massively appreciated as it helps bolster the number of troops being deployed. These pikemen, even with their limit of 3 per army, being the core of the faction's infantry line when fighting on the defensive or when grinding through enemy forces, the faction quite literally having no melee infantry units or spearmen, these guys in combination with shock troops being their only viable strategy. As such, this unit is a prerequisite in any Immladris army, although I'd recommend not using them as a general and instead bunching them up as the centre of your forces. Taking the bronze in this ranking video are the Orc Pikes of Mordor, a silver tier 2 medium pike infantry unit. These troops are immediately placed above the previous competition due to the fact that the unit has no cap on its recruitment, meaning that the unit can easily comprise a large proportion of Mordor's armies, being easily amassed cheaply while being able to fend off cavalry. It's in this role that the unit excels, as Mordor is quite vulnerable to cavalry, lacking a wide assortment of spears or its own cavalry, meaning that this unit helps cover that weakness. As a whole, the unit is very useful and fulfills a particular role in Mordor's armies that is well appreciated, even if in comparison to other units it has quite mediocre stats, as is to be expected of an Orc unit. Claiming silver today, we have the Uruk-hai Pikes of the Dol Guldur faction. These silver tier 3 heavy pike infantry are a crucial part of any army fielded by Dol Guldur, given that the faction too has a mostly empty roster. this being one of the handful of units available. As such, this unit will comprise the bulk of your army in combination with the Guldur blades, this unit serving as a spear line of sorts for your forces that grinds through enemy formation and also slaughters attacking cavalry, being ultra useful in that role given that Dol Guldur lacks cavalry almost entirely, this unit essentially being a boosted version of the Orc Pikes that also has no limit on its recruitment. While the unit does have its high position because of just how central they are to the faction as it currently stands, because from what I understand of the faction's previews, Dol Guldur isn't going to be a specifically Pike faction the way other units are, which means that while the unit is supremely useful for now and helps shape how the faction is played, it won't be like that in the future. Overall, a fantastic unit that is a must-have for any Dol Guldur general who wishes to attain victory rather than defeat. Finally, coming in and beating all the competition, we have the Uruk-hai Pikes with their gold medal. Silver tier, tier 3 heavy Pike Infantry of Isengard, these troops share many similarities with the previous unit, however it's the differences between the two that make me give them first place. Much like the Guldur Pikes, this is a professional Pike unit that can be fielded in large numbers with no limits on their cap, meaning that the unit can and will comprise a large portion of your armies. However, unlike the Guldur Pikes, where their mass usage due to a lack of other options, with the faction not being geared towards mass blocks of pikes, the Uruk-hai Pikes are the epitome of their faction's orientation towards pike armies. Isengard is a faction that solely revolves around pikes, large pike armies being the ace in the hole, helping to counter the faction's weakness of cavalry due to lacking any. Ultimately, this unit is in your armies because your faction is built to facilitate their use on a large scale, not something you can say for any of the other units being covered today, leading this unit to be deserving of first place in my opinion. So there we have it, all the Pike Infantry in the current version of the mod ranked. Remember, these rankings are purely subjective, so if you disagree, please let me know in the comments. I'd absolutely love to know what you think, as it will give me insight that I'd otherwise be lacking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It might not seem like much, but for such a small channel, it's massively appreciated. More ranking videos will be coming up, as well as army build videos too, and battle scenarios as well, so if you like the sounds of that, stick around the channel. Before I head out, I'll give a reminder that the tables that I used to compare the units are just coming up. But with that said, this is your host Jakov, signing out.